Welcome back to the Public Housing Resident Organizing and Participation Toolkit training series. This training series is meant to walk public housing residents through how to organize and run a successful resident council so that you can improve your housing and community. We encourage you to participate in the entire training series.
This training is based on Guide 7, Resident Training and Self-Sufficiency Programs. As you go through the training, you may want to refer to the guide.
This presentation will discuss resident training and self-sufficiency programs, specifically
Resident Opportunity and Self-Sufficiency, ROS grants.
the Jobs Plus program and
The Family Self-Sufficiency Program, FSS.
some key points to know going into this training.
HUD and other sources provide funding for services that support residents.
Under some programs, resident councils can receive funding directly, and
For all programs, resident councils can advocate with the housing agency to implement strong programs.
HUD is committed to advancing self-sufficiency and financial stability among public housing residents.
HUD, housing agencies, and community organizations offer programs to support public housing residents to become more financially self-sufficient. Your resident council can participate in and advance these programs.
This presentation will discuss 3 programs.
The Resident Opportunity and Self-Sufficiency, or ROS grants.
The Jobs Plus program and
The Family Self-Sufficiency, or FSS program. In each program, HUD provides grants that mostly pay for service coordinators or case managers. Who can receive the grants and what the service coordinators do varies among the programs.
let's do a quick knowledge check before we dive in.
True or false? Through resident training and self-sufficiency programs, HUD seeks to advance self-sufficiency and financial stability among public housing residents. We'll pause while you consider your answer.
If you answered true, you got it. HUD is committed to advancing self-sufficiency and financial stability among public housing residents. HUD, local housing agencies, and community organizations offer programs to support public housing residents in their efforts to become more self-sufficient.
While the general outline of each program does not change, HUD may make changes from time to time in the requirements for receiving grants from these programs.
HUD publishes Notices of Funding Opportunity, or NOFOs, that have guidance on the requirements to receive funding for a specific program in the upcoming cycle.
NOFOs are published on HUD's website at hud.gov/grants.
Let's do another knowledge check. HUD may make changes from time to time in the requirements for receiving grants for self-sufficiency programs. The notification of these changes can be found where?
A, hud.gov.
B, hudexchange.info,
C, flyers in your building.
or D, social media. We'll pause while you consider your answer.
If you answered A, hud.gov, you got it right. The full URL is hud.gov/grants.
First, let's discuss the Resident Opportunity and Self-Sufficiency, or ROS program. Under ROS, housing agencies, tribal housing organizations, resident councils, jurisdiction-wide or property-specific, or other nonprofit organizations that partner with residents can receive grants.
The program pays for coordinators who can organize services for residents, provide case management, directly support residents, and in some cases, directly support the work of the resident council.
ROS is designed to allow flexibility to meet local needs. Each ROS program can look very different.
Services funded by ROS grants aim to help participants be more self-sufficient. HUD considers several factors as moving towards self-sufficiency.
Increasing earned income, like wages from work,
Reducing or eliminating the need for cash assistance.
progress toward achieving economic independence, and
Progress towards housing self-sufficiency.
in the case of elderly residents or residents with disabilities, HUD considers different factors, Self-sufficiency factors in these cases include
Improving living conditions,
enabling residents to age in place and
enabling residents to avoid nursing homes or other institutional facilities.
ROS service coordinators, sometimes called program coordinators, help participants move toward their goals. They use needs assessments, case management, and referrals to services as tools.
ROS can work with other service programs for public housing residents that are offered by the housing agency or community organization by providing funds for the case management portion.
ROS cannot directly fund services themselves.
Only residents of public and Indian housing programs can receive case management services from ROS service coordinators.
ROS may connect residents to a variety of services, including
Employment services, such as support with training related to assessments, job searches, computer literacy, resume writing, and interviewing.
disability services, including accessible transportation, assistance with daily living, and disability services counseling.
Health and well-being, including healthcare referrals, nutrition education, and drug and alcohol treatment.
Support with basic needs, including benefits enrollment, childcare, and life skills.
Services related to education and youth, including after-school programs, tutoring, and early childhood education.
Financial literacy, including financial coaching, long-term financial planning, and money management.
Aging in place, including healthcare coordination, meal services, and transportation.
Check the current Notice of Funding Opportunity. Sometimes HUD requires that certain services be offered.
When a property has a service coordinator, all public housing residents are eligible for services. If your property has some units that are public housing and others that receive assistance from some other program, like Section 8, those other residents will not qualify to receive support from ROS service coordinators.
A unique feature of ROS is that resident groups may apply for and receive funding. Housing agencies, resident councils, tribally designated housing entities, and nonprofit organizations can receive ROS grants. Nonprofit organizations must have a letter of support from the local housing agency or a resident council.
A resident council can support a nonprofit's application for a service coordinator that will be assigned full-time to their property. By law, at least 25% of ROS grant money must go to resident councils, as long as there are enough applications. As part of the application review process, your resident council's capacity to manage grant funding and implement the program will be evaluated. If your resident council does not yet have the experience and skills to manage the grant, you have several options. You can seek training to build the necessary skills or partner with your housing agency or local community organizations to implement community programs. You can also work with local nonprofits or the housing agency to support their application for ROS funding.
Even if the resident council does not receive funding directly, resident councils and resident leaders can help make a ROS program successful. Some ways you can do this include
Conducting surveys on resident needs,
working with the service coordinator to design programs,
including the service coordinator in resident council meetings, and
introducing and encouraging residents to take advantage of the ROS service coordinator.
ROS service coordinators can work closely with the resident council and even support resident council outreach. When the resident council and the service coordinator share the same goals, collaboration can help everyone.
In Cincinnati, the Jurisdiction-Wide Resident Council, the JRAB, receives ROS funding directly from HUD. JRAB also receives tenant participation funds from the housing agency and outside funding as well. JRAB has several service coordinators who support residents in public housing buildings and one working out of JRAB's office, which is also the Business and Service Coordination Center.
In Los Angeles County, service coordinators focus on empowerment as key to self-sufficiency. Resident councils are an important tool for the work of helping its members with capacity building and skills to find a job or advance their career. Budgeting, public speaking, outreach, meeting facilitation, consensus building, and administrative experience are all skills that resident leaders need to be successful within a resident council, as well as within the job market.
For more information on partnering with community organizations, see Guide 6, Partnering with Local and Community Organizations.
Let's do another knowledge check. What kinds of organizations can receive Ross funding?
A. Housing agencies.
B. Tribal housing organizations.
C. Resident councils, jurisdiction-wide or property-specific.
D. Other nonprofit organizations that partner with residents. Or
E. All of the above. We'll pause while you consider your answer.
if you answered E, you were correct. Many different types of organizations are eligible for Ross funding, including housing agencies, tribal housing organizations, resident councils, and other nonprofit organizations that partner with residents.
Another knowledge check question. Ross service coordinators or program coordinators help participants move towards their goals by using the following tools.
A, needs assessment.
B. Case management.
C, referrals to services.
Or D. All of the above. We'll pause while you consider your answer.
Again, the answer is D, all of the above. Ross coordinators can use many different tools, including needs assessments, case management, and referrals to services, among other tools.
One more knowledge check question. True or false? When a property has a Ross service coordinator, all residents, regardless of program eligibility, are eligible for services. We'll pause while you consider your answer.
The correct answer is false. Residents who receive benefits under the public and Indian housing programs are eligible for services from a Ross service coordinator. However, some buildings receive multiple subsidies, and those residents receiving benefits under another program, like Section 8, are not eligible.
We'll now look at the next program, the Jobs Plus Initiative. The Jobs Plus Initiative provides a strategy, which has been shown to work, for increasing the employment opportunities and earnings of public housing residents.
Housing agencies can receive grants.
The PHA, or an implementation partner, an organization chosen by the housing agency, runs the program.
The program develops employment opportunities and promotes a community support network that offers work readiness, career education, and financial literacy.
The goal of Jobs Plus is to assist residents in attaining sustainable long-term employment at a livable wage.
Before beginning a Jobs Plus program, housing agencies are expected to show community support for work and coordinate with local organizations, government agencies, nonprofits, and employers to design the approach. If there is a resident council, the resident council must also be consulted.
Services should match participating residents' individual needs with a goal of providing services on site, though referrals can also be offered.
For example, employment services may be provided at a job center or on the property, and referrals may be made to complementary services in the community, such as childcare.
The Jobs Plus program can vary depending on local needs, but has two main components. First, employment-related services. Jobs Plus includes services such as work readiness training, connecting residents with employers, financial counseling, educational advancement, job placement, and employment counseling. Residents enroll in these services to help attain sustainable long-term employment at a livable wage.
Second, there must be community support for work. Housing agencies must advertise the program so that all residents know that they can participate. Sites are required to hire residents as community coaches who recruit participants and help share program offerings and outreach efforts based on their knowledge of the needs and strengths of the community.
Informal interactions between staff and residents are a key part of the program. Housing agencies must partner with local work development boards and can partner with other organizations too. Let's do a few Jobs Plus knowledge check questions. Which of the following is not one of the three main components of a Jobs Plus program?
A, employment-related services.
B, resident council approval.
C, financial incentives.
Or D, community support for work. We'll pause for a moment while you consider your answer.
The correct answer is B. Resident councils must be consulted if they exist, but resident council approval is not required for Jobs Plus program.
True or false? Unemployed residents can enroll in the Jobs Plus program. We'll pause while you consider your answer.
The correct answer is true. For participants who are unemployed, case managers help them learn new skills, identify short and long-term employment goals, and create plans to accomplish them.
We'll now move to the Family Self-sufficiency, or FSS program.
Housing agencies can receive FSS grants by applying directly to HUD.
Housing agencies run the program.
Residents may voluntarily enroll. Participants create specific goals for their household and receive case management.
The Family Self-sufficiency program promotes increased earnings and savings for families receiving HUD-funded rental assistance, including public housing residents. The program supports participants in finding employment that will allow them to move off of federal or state cash assistance, sometimes called welfare, and reduce their need for rental assistance.
In order to successfully complete FSS, participants must become independent of federal and state cash assistance for at least 12 months, and a household member must seek and maintain suitable employment. Participants may remain in other government programs, such as SNAP or Medicaid, and still be considered successful.
For residents, participation in FSS is voluntary. If the local housing agency has an FSS program and there is space available, interested public housing residents can apply to participate. The program generally lasts 5 years, though families can complete the program early by meeting certain goals.
FSS service coordinators provide participants with
Assessment
case management.
and coaching,
FSS service coordinators support participants in
developing goals,
accessing services to overcome barriers to employment,
strengthening their financial capability, and
addressing other challenges.
a key feature of FSS is that participants identify their own financial and employment-related goals.
FSS participants may access services and supports in the areas of
Employment, including resume building, job search assistance, and job training.
financial capability, including credit counseling, financial education, and savings programs.
Educational programs, including skills development, GED preparation, college courses, and job training. And
Wraparound services, including health and mental health services, childcare, and transportation.
FSS programs must be run directly by housing agencies. Housing agencies create a program coordinating committee, which
Secures resources.
develops the FSS action plan and procedures,
Identify service gaps, and
works to implement the program.
this group may include community organizations, local government agencies, local colleges, and public housing residents. If your housing agency has an FSS program, check to see if resident voices are already included in the program coordinating committee. If not, see if the housing agency would invite a representative of the resident council to the committee.
If your community does not yet have an FSS program and residents are interested, residents and resident councils may advocate with the housing agency. For example, the resident council can use the PHA plan process to encourage an application for FSS funds.
Let's do a knowledge check on FSS. What must a participant do to successfully complete the FSS program?
A. Become independent of federal and state cash assistance for at least 12 months.
B. A household member must seek and maintain suitable employment.
C. Finish college.
D. All of the above.
Or E. A and B only. We will pause while you consider your answer.
The correct answer is E. Successful FSS participants must become independent of federal and state cash assistance for at least 12 months, and at least one member of the household must seek and maintain stable employment. Attending or finishing college is not required.
The resources on this slide and the following slide are provided as clickable links in the downloadable slide deck and in the guide.
Here are some more resources related to resident training and self-sufficiency programs.
Thank you for participating in this training. This training is part of the Public Housing Resident Organizing and Participation Toolkit. The full toolkit includes topical guides, customizable resident council documents and forms, tools related to tenant participation funds, and case studies of resident organizations around the country.
The next training in the series is on Guide 8, Resident Management Corporations.